echo of time. Unlock the past. Challenge the narrative.
Before her name became legend, before her beauty was feared by empires, she was just a child, born into a dynasty built on blood. It is 69 BC. The golden sands of Egypt shimmer under the morning sun as the Nile flows like a living god, whispering secrets of eternity. In the royal palace of Alexandria, surrounded by marble halls and perfumed air, a cry pierces the silence. A child is born, Cleopatra VII Philopator, the last true pharaoh of Egypt. Her lineage descends not from ancient Egyptian kings, but from Ptolemy I Soter, a Macedonian general under Alexander the Great. For nearly 3 centuries, her family has ruled as Greek monarchs over an Egyptian people they barely understand. Yet Cleopatra will be different. Unlike her ancestors, she will learn the Egyptian tongue, worship their gods, and call herself the daughter of Isis. Her father, Ptolemy Thwaites Auletes, known as the flute player, is weak and indulgent, more interested in music than ruling. He buys Roman protection with Egypt's gold, leaving his people impoverished. Her mother, likely Cleopatra V Tryphena, gives her intelligence and dignity, but vanishes mysteriously when Cleopatra is still a child. A warning that in this palace, love and loyalty are dangerous illusions. From the moment she could walk, Cleopatra lived surrounded by lies. She learned to smile in the presence of enemies and to think faster than anyone in the room. She studies beside the Nile's best tutors: philosophy, astronomy, medicine, and languages. By 15, Cleopatra can speak 9 tongues. She reads Aristotle, debates with priests, and studies the ancient rituals of Ra and Isis. Even as a girl, she understands the power of knowledge, that the mind can be sharper than a sword. But Egypt is crumbling. Her father's greed drains the treasury while Rome grows stronger each year. The people revolt and Ptolemy the Theban flees into exile. Her sister Berenice IV seizes the throne and rules as queen. The young Cleopatra watches quietly, her eyes absorbing every betrayal. When her father returns with Roman soldiers and retakes the throne, Berenice is executed, her body left as a warning to all who challenge the Ptolemies. Cleopatra learned early that mercy is a luxury only the powerful can afford. Years pass. In 51 BC, when her father dies, Cleopatra, now 18, ascends to the throne beside her younger brother Ptolemy XIII, just 12 years old. By tradition, they must marry and rule jointly. But Cleopatra's vision is greater than any child king's imagination. She sees Egypt not as a toy of Rome, but as a kingdom reborn, under her rule alone. She speaks to ambassadors without interpreters. She negotiates with merchants and priests herself. The people adore her, the first ruler in centuries who addresses them in their own language. But inside the palace, her growing power breeds resentment. Ptolemy's advisors whisper that she plans to usurp her brother. Soon she is accused of treason and forced to flee the city. From exile, she gathers an army from the deserts of Syria. She watches the horizon, waiting for a sign while Egypt plunges deeper into chaos. And that sign will come, not from the gods of Egypt, but from the legions of Rome. Across the sea, a civil war rages between Julius Caesar and Pompey the Great, 2 titans of Rome. Pompey flees to Egypt seeking sanctuary, but the boy king Ptolemy, desperate to please Caesar, commits an unforgivable act. He murders Pompey and presents his severed head to Caesar as a gift. When Caesar arrives in Alexandria, he is disgusted. The Roman conqueror, a man who commands legions and topples nations, despises cowardice. And in that moment, Cleopatra sees her chance. A chance to win back her throne and perhaps to change the fate of the world. It is night. The sea breeze carries the scent of myrrh and salt through the palace corridors. A rug, rolled tight, is carried into Caesar's chambers by a servant. When it is unrolled, out steps a woman, graceful, fearless, radiant as moonlight. "I am Cleopatra, Queen of Egypt," she says, her voice calm, her gaze unwavering. In that instant, Caesar's expression softens. The ruthless general, conqueror of Gaul, is captivated, not merely by her beauty, but by her intelligence, her presence, her courage. He realizes that this young queen is more than a ruler. She is Egypt itself, proud, cunning, and eternal. And thus, the narrating voice would say, the destinies of Rome and Egypt entwined, and not through war, but through a meeting in the shadows of history. Some encounters change the course of history. Some alliances are written in the stars, and some queens do not wait for fate, they seize it. Cleopatra's entrance into Caesar's chambers is more than spectacle. It is strategy. Draped in the aura of mystery and power, she speaks not as a frightened exile but as a ruler demanding recognition. Every word is measured, every glance is calculated. Caesar, the man who has conquered Gaul, subdued the tribes of Europe, and bent Rome to his will, sees in her a mind equal to his own, and in that recognition, he senses an opportunity. The young queen knows the stakes. Her throne is under siege, her brother's generals plotting, and the Roman legions just as likely to destroy her as to protect her. But Cleopatra's gambit works. Caesar agrees to an alliance, and together they begin the siege that will restore her power. Alexandria becomes a battlefield. Fires rage along the harbor. Ships sink beneath the waves while the streets run with the echo of war. Yet amidst the chaos, Cleopatra moves with precision. She negotiates with her brother's supporters, inspires the people, and ensures the treasury remains in her hands. Rome and Egypt, two worlds colliding, bend to her will. By the time the dust settles, Cleopatra sits alone on the throne. Caesar is by her side not merely as an ally but as a witness to her authority. Their relationship is both political and personal. Together they conceive a son, Ptolemy Caesar, known to history as Caesarion. The boy is the living embodiment of two empires, a symbol of Egypt's hope and Rome's influence. Yet the world beyond Alexandria watches with suspicion. Rome's senators fear Caesar's growing power and question his loyalty. Cleopatra knows that her kingdom is both a jewel and a target. Every decision must be cunning, every alliance carefully weighed. She entertains envoys, balances Egyptian religion with Greek heritage, and cultivates her image as the living goddess Isis incarnate. Her beauty captivates, but her mind commands. Cleopatra's genius was never merely in seduction, historians later note. It was in seeing the battlefield not as soldiers and swords, but as ideas and loyalty. When Caesar returns to Rome, Cleopatra remains in Egypt, ruling as Pharaoh. Yet their connection does not end. Letters travel across the Mediterranean. Gifts of gold, ivory, and precious silks accompany political counsel. She understands the delicate balance of empire, how Rome can protect Egypt, but how Caesar's enemies could just as easily destroy it. Cleopatra's time with Caesar leaves her transformed. She is no longer a fledgling queen. She is a sovereign strategist, capable of outmaneuvering generals and senators alike. Her legend grows, whispered in the streets of Alexandria and the forums of Rome. She is young, brilliant, and fearless, a woman whose presence alone bends history. As Caesar faces betrayal in Rome, Cleopatra watches, ever calculating, aware that the fates of empires in the course of her life are intertwined with the Roman world. Her eyes, sharp as the Nile's current, anticipate every threat, every opportunity. In her, Egypt finds not just a ruler, but a force that will define the end of one era and the twilight of another. And so Cleopatra rises, the queen of Egypt, the ally of Rome, the woman whose name will echo for millennia. But her greatest trials are still ahead. Wars, alliances, and rivalries will test her intellect, her courage, and her very survival. The stage is set, the pieces are in motion, and the Game of Thrones is only beginning. Every empire is built on trust, and every betrayal begins with a whisper. For Cleopatra, Rome's whisper would soon turn into a storm. The year is 46 BC. The Mediterranean world kneels before Julius Caesar. He returns to Rome not as a mere general, but as a living god, crowned in triumph, his enemies crushed. And at his side, visiting from the east, walks a queen whose presence ignites scandal and fascination alike, Cleopatra of Egypt. Her arrival in Rome is nothing short of theatrical. Draped in gold-woven linen, attended by servants and musicians, she embodies a vision of the divine. Romans line the streets to see the woman who has captured Caesar's heart, the mother of his son. But admiration mingles with resentment. Senators murmur in marble corridors. Has Caesar traded Rome's honor for Egypt's enchantment? In her villa across the Tiber, Cleopatra watches the city of 7 hills with careful eyes. She studies its power, its ambition, its arrogance. She attends banquets, listens to poets, and even meets Caesar's wife, Calpurnia, in a moment of silent tension. Yet Cleopatra remains composed. She knows this visit is not about love. It is about survival. She must secure Egypt's independence by binding her fate to the most powerful man alive. For Cleopatra, politics was war disguised as affection. During her stay, she witnesses the shifting tides of Roman politics. Senators whisper of conspiracies, jealous of Caesar's godlike control. Cleopatra advises him to be cautious, to remember that adoration can turn to envy overnight. But Caesar, confident and unstoppable, dismisses her concerns. He plans new reforms, new conquests, and dreams of uniting Rome and Egypt under one dynasty. Then comes March 15th, 44 BC, the Ides of March. Inside the Senate, daggers flash. Caesar falls beneath the marble statue of Pompey, pierced 23 times by the very men he called allies. Rome erupts in chaos, power fragments. The dream of empire dies in blood. When the news reaches Cleopatra, she is silent. Her gaze turns toward the horizon, where the sun sinks over the Nile. She knows the game has changed. The man who protected her throne, the father of her child, is gone. And now Rome, the giant she once tamed, may soon turn against her. She leaves Rome swiftly, her ship gliding back across the Mediterranean. The waves reflect the fire of burning altars, the cries of a nation in turmoil. With her is her son, Caesarion, the last living blood of Julius Caesar. To the Romans, he is a threat. To Cleopatra, he is the future. Back in Alexandria, she wastes no time. She consolidates power, executes rivals, and reinstates Egypt's sovereignty. Her image as Isis reborn grows stronger. She rebuilds temples, restores the economy, and rules with a balance of mercy and terror. Her people see her as a goddess, and her enemies as an enigma they cannot crush. Cleopatra did not mourn, she evolved. But across the sea, new powers rise. In Rome, Caesar's death births a new trinity. Mark Antony, Octavian, and Lepidus, men who vow vengeance but secretly crave dominion. Cleopatra watches them as a falcon watches prey. She knows that one day they will come for Egypt, and when they do, she must be ready to strike, not with armies, but with allure and intelligence. The queen stands upon her palace balcony, the city of Alexandria gleaming beneath the moonlight. The wind carries the scent of papyrus and sea salt. She lifts her son in her arms, whispering, "The gods have taken your father, my son, but they have left us Egypt, and Egypt will never kneel." Her eyes harden. The Nile flows below like liquid silver, ancient and eternal. Cleopatra knows the world has entered a new age, an age of betrayal, ambition, and destiny. And she, the last pharaoh, is prepared to play the greatest game of all. From the ashes of Caesar's empire rose two titans, a queen who ruled with her mind and a general who ruled with his heart. When they met, history trembled. The year is 41 BC. Rome is fractured after Caesar's death. The Republic, once mighty, is now split between ambitious men, Octavian, Caesar's adopted heir, cold and calculating, and Mark Antony, Caesar's most loyal general, brave, impulsive, and adored by his soldiers. The world holds its breath as these two giants divide the Roman world between them. In the east, Antony commands vast territories, Greece, Asia, and Syria. But he faces rebellion, debt, and the endless need for wealth to fuel his ambitions. One name rises again and again in his councils: Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt, rich, cunning, and mysterious. Antony summons her to the city of Tarsus, expecting tribute. But Cleopatra does not come as a subject. She comes as a queen. She would not walk to him as a petitioner, but sail to him as a goddess. The scene becomes legend. Down the Cydnus River glides her barge, its sails of purple silk, its oars beating time to music. The air smells of incense and cinnamon. Cleopatra reclines beneath a golden canopy, dressed as Isis, goddess of love and power. Boys dressed as winged cupids fan her with peacock feathers. The people of Tarsus line the banks in awe. Even Antony, the hardened soldier, forgets his army and his orders. When they finally meet, words melt into silence. Cleopatra speaks softly, her wit sharper than any Roman blade. Antony, who has faced wars and storms, finds himself disarmed by a single glance. She conquered not through seduction, but through conversation. No man could resist the gravity of her mind. For days they feast, laugh, and plot. Cleopatra tests him, questioning his loyalty to Caesar's memory, his plans for Rome, his dreams. Antony, drunk on her charisma, sees in her a reflection of himself. Bold, proud, unafraid of destiny. Soon he abandons politics for passion, following her back to Alexandria. There their love becomes a spectacle of legend. They hunt together in the desert, dine on silver boats along the Nile, and throw feasts where pearls are dissolved in wine. Yet beneath the laughter there is strategy. Cleopatra knows that Antony's strength can shield Egypt from Octavian's ambitions. Antony knows that her gold can fund his wars, but love changes them both. For the first time, Cleopatra allows herself to be vulnerable. For the first time, Antony begins to see himself not as a Roman conqueror, but as an Eastern king. Two souls, both trapped between duty and desire, dared to rewrite the map of the ancient world. Their union produces 3 children: Alexander Helios, Cleopatra Selene, and Ptolemy Philadelphus. The people of Egypt worship them as living gods, but in Rome whispers grow. Senators sneer that Antony has been bewitched, that he kneels before an Egyptian temptress. Octavian seizes the chance to poison Antony's name, painting Cleopatra as the destroyer of Roman virtue. Yet the lovers remain defiant. In 34 BC, they celebrate the donations of Alexandria, a grand ceremony where Antony proclaims Cleopatra Queen of Kings, and Caesarion, the son of Julius Caesar, King of Kings. To the Romans, it is blasphemy. To Egypt, it is rebirth. The stage is set for the final act of empire. Antony and Cleopatra rule the east like gods upon thrones, while Octavian plots in the west. The three great powers of the known world now stand on the edge of war. The Nile had given birth to a goddess, Rome had forged a warrior, and destiny demanded only one could survive. When love defies empires, the world burns, and when gods make war, mortals become the ashes. The year is 33 BC. The alliance between Mark Antony and Cleopatra has become the heartbeat of the East, powerful, dazzling, and dangerous. Together, they control half the known world. From the golden halls of Alexandria, Cleopatra rules as a living goddess. Beside her, Antony reigns as pharaoh and warrior. Their ships patrol the Nile. Their armies stretch across the deserts of Syria and Arabia. But in Rome, a colder empire rises, ruled by Octavian, Caesar's heir, a man who never forgets, never forgives, and never sleeps. To Octavian, Antony's love for Cleopatra is treason. Rumors bloom like plague through Rome's streets that Antony has abandoned his Roman wife, Octavia, that he kneels before an Egyptian witch, that he dreams of moving the capital of the world to Alexandria. Rome shudders in outrage, but outrage is exactly what Octavian needs. Propaganda is the sharpest sword of any empire. He unleashes a campaign that paints Cleopatra as a serpent, a sorceress who has enslaved a Roman general through lust and witchcraft. Statues of her appear in Rome as a devilish queen with a crown of vipers. The Senate trembles as Octavian proclaims, Rome does not fight Antony. Rome fights Egypt, and just like that, love becomes war. Antony answers the challenge. He gathers fleets and legions, declaring himself ruler of the East and champion of freedom against Rome's tyranny. Cleopatra stands beside him, dressed in gold armor, her eyes blazing beneath the desert sun. Her navy, one of the largest in history, sails beneath banners of Isis and Ra. Egypt's destiny is tied to this single gamble. The two forces meet in 31 BC, off the coast of Actium in Greece, one of the most decisive battles in ancient history. The sea shimmers with bronze and blood. Antony's ships, massive and slow, face Octavian's smaller, swifter navy commanded by the brilliant Agrippa. The air fills with the roar of catapults, the crack of fire, and the cries of dying men. At the heart of the storm stands Cleopatra, aboard her flagship, her eyes fixed on the horizon, her fate entwined with Antony's. But chaos devours order. The wind shifts, the formation breaks, and in that moment of confusion, Cleopatra gives a desperate order: retreat. Her ship turns away, sails unfurling toward Egypt. Antony, seeing her flee, abandons command and follows. Behind them, his fleet collapses, burned, captured, or sunk beneath the waves. In one heartbeat, the dream of empire drowned beneath the sea. Octavian claims victory. The world hails him as savior. Rome rejoices. But in Alexandria, silence reigns. Antony and Cleopatra return not as gods, but as fugitives. The once mighty palace that glittered with gold now echoes with emptiness. Servants whisper of doom. The queen, once adored as Isis reborn, stares into her mirror and sees the shadow of destiny. Still, she refuses to yield. She fortifies the city, summons her generals, and vows to fight until the last breath. Antony, torn between honor and despair, clings to the love that had once made him fearless. Yet both know the end has already begun. Empires do not die in battlefields alone. They die in the hearts of those who once believed they could not fall. The Nile continues to flow, eternal and indifferent, as the storm of fate moves toward Alexandria, where the final act of the greatest love story in history will unfold. The mightiest warriors do not fall to steel. They fall to love, pride, and the ghosts of their own glory. The year's 30 BC. The once golden city of Alexandria stands in uneasy silence. Once the heart of an empire, its harbors now wait for the arrival of Octavian's legions. Inside the royal palace, the air is heavy with incense and fear. Cleopatra walks among her treasures, Jewels, scrolls, statues of gods, the relics of a dynasty that has lasted for 300 years. But she knows all the gold in Egypt cannot buy back time. Mark Antony is no longer the conqueror of legend. The proud Roman general who once commanded half the world now wanders the marble halls in silence. His armor gathers dust. His eyes, once sharp and alive, are shadowed with regret. He cannot forgive himself for Actium, for leaving the battle, for following Cleopatra's retreat, for losing Rome and honor in one heartbeat. A man who once ruled legions was now ruled by his memories. Cleopatra tries to revive his spirit. She hosts feasts, speaks of rebuilding their power, of striking again, but Antony's heart is already broken. He spends his nights alone staring out over the Nile, listening to the whispers of soldiers who no longer believe in him. Outside the palace walls, the city trembles. The people who once hailed Cleopatra as a goddess now pray to survive the coming war. Then one fateful morning, word reaches Alexandria. Octavian's army has crossed the desert. The Roman eagle marches toward the Nile. Antony rallies what forces remain. The clash is brief, brutal, hopeless. Betrayal festers even among his ranks. Generals defecting, soldiers surrendering. In a desperate final stand, Antony rides into battle, sword flashing beneath the blazing Egyptian sun. But fate has already chosen sides. He returns to the city bloodied, his pride shattered beyond repair. Cleopatra retreats into her mausoleum, a grand tomb she had ordered built long ago, not as a monument but as a plan. She fills it with treasures and guards it like a fortress. If Egypt must die, she intends to die as its queen, surrounded by gold, not chains. Then comes the cruelest blow. False rumors reach Antony. Cleopatra is dead. For a moment, the world stops. The man who had conquered nations cannot bear the thought of life without her. He draws his sword and falls upon it. His blood stains the marble floor. But even death refuses him quickly. He lives, broken, bleeding, long enough to be carried to Cleopatra's tomb. There, in the flickering light of torches, the warrior found the queen one last time. The doors of the mausoleum open just wide enough to pull him inside. Cleopatra cradles him in her arms, his blood warm against her skin. No empire remains, no crown, no triumph, only two souls facing eternity. Do not mourn, she whispers. What we were, the world will never see again. Antony smiles faintly, the soldier at peace at last. And then the breath leaves him. Cleopatra presses her lips to his forehead and closes his eyes. The queen who once defied Rome now kneels beside the man who gave her both power and ruin. Outside, Octavian's troops march closer. The end of Egypt's last pharaoh is only days away. Love had made them gods, but even gods must die. As the torches flicker and the night deepens, Cleopatra rises, her face streaked with tears and ash. She looks toward the door of her tomb and whispers to the darkness, "Rome can take my throne, my city, my crown, but they will never take my soul." When empires fall, the conqueror comes not only for land or gold, but for symbols. And Cleopatra was the last symbol of a dying age. The thunder of Roman boots echoed through the streets of Alexandria. Octavian's legions marched under the burning Egyptian sun, their banners snapping like whips in the wind. The people watched in silence, and no cheers, no defiance, only the quiet dread of a civilization that had outlived its gods. The gates of the royal quarter fell without resistance. Mark Antony was dead. Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt, had locked herself within her mausoleum, a fortress of stone and gold. Word spread through the Roman ranks that she had sealed herself away with her treasures, ready to meet the afterlife as a goddess, not a captive. But Octavian, cold and deliberate, wanted her alive. To Rome, she was not merely a queen. She was a trophy, proof of his victory over Antony and the East. Capturing her meant more than conquest, it meant legitimacy, destiny. Octavian sent word to the tomb, surrender. When Cleopatra refused, Roman soldiers stormed the mausoleum. They scaled its high walls, broke the bronze doors, and dragged her from within. Not a goddess in golden robes, but a woman in mourning. Still, even in defeat, Cleopatra did not tremble. She stood before Caesar's heir, ancient chroniclers wrote, as if she had come to judge him, not to beg him. Octavian was struck by her presence. She was no longer the radiant beauty that had captivated Julius Caesar and Antony. Her face was pale, her eyes hollow. But there was something deeper, unbreakable. The aura of a woman who had been worshipped as Isis, who had ruled the Nile and made emperors bow. He saw in her both danger and fascination. He promised mercy. claiming she would be taken to Rome, paraded in triumph, and spared her life. But Cleopatra understood the truth behind his words. Mercy from Rome was humiliation. To be chained, displayed before a jeering crowd, dragged through the streets of the city that had murdered her lovers. It was a fate worse than death. That night, in the quiet of her captivity, Cleopatra planned her final act. She spent hours with her servants Iris and Charmian. They bathed her, adorned her with jewels, and dressed her in robes of shining white linen, the sacred color of Isis. The queen gazed upon her reflection one last time, her eyes calm, resolute. "They shall not see me broken," she said softly. "I will meet the gods as a queen." In the early morning, Octavian's men came to summon her, but the chamber was silent. The queen lay upon a golden couch, her crown beside her, her hand resting upon her heart. At her feet, a small woven basket sat open. Inside, the coiled form of an asp, the sacred Egyptian cobra. Cleopatra had chosen her death. The venom spread quickly. Within moments, the Queen of Egypt had crossed into eternity, her face serene, her body untouched by fear. Her two loyal servants lay beside her, having followed her into the afterlife. When Octavian was told, he stared in silence. He had conquered her armies, taken her city, seized her wealth. Yet in death, Cleopatra had denied him the one thing he desired most: triumph. She escaped him, wrote Plutarch, as no man or god could have. Her body was buried beside Antony's as she had wished, the last union of love and empire. Octavian stood over their tomb in quiet thought. He had won the world, but something had ended with her, something older, mysterious, divine. The dynasty of the Pharaohs was gone. Rome ruled Egypt now. But even as the new emperor sailed back across the Mediterranean, whispers of the queen endured, stories of her beauty, her cunning, her power. Cleopatra, they said, died as she lived and on her own terms. A mortal died in Egypt that day, but an idea was born. The idea of a woman who could rule hearts, empires, and eternity. After Cleopatra's death, the silence in Alexandria was deafening. The last queen of Egypt had vanished into legend. Octavian ordered her tomb sealed and placed guards around it, not from reverence but from fear. He understood that even in death her presence carried power. The Roman world was stunned. Reports of her suicide swept through the empire. Some called it an act of courage, others of cowardice. But beneath the politics and the propaganda, one truth remained. Cleopatra had robbed Rome of its spectacle. She had denied Octavian the chance to parade her through the streets as a conquered queen. Instead, she turned her death into an act of ultimate sovereignty. In dying, she won the only victory that still mattered, over history itself. Octavian would soon return to Rome, renamed Augustus, the first emperor. He rebuilt the Roman world, but Egypt was never the same. Its temples continued to stand, its gods continued to be worshipped, but the spirit of Pharaoh had ended. The Ptolemaic bloodline, the legacy of Alexander's empire, and the sacred link between divine and mortal rulers, all vanished with Cleopatra's final breath. Yet even Rome could not erase her. Poets whispered her name, artists painted her beauty. Historians debated her mind. Was she a temptress or a genius? A seductress or a stateswoman? To the Egyptians, she was Isis reborn. To the Romans, she was the serpent queen who almost brought the empire to its knees. But to history, she became something greater, a symbol of power in a world ruled by men. In the centuries that followed, Cleopatra's image evolved. The medieval world remembered her as a tragic lover. The Renaissance celebrated her as a goddess of passion and intellect. And modern history sees her as the last defender of a dying civilization, a ruler who stood against the might of Rome, armed only with her mind, her charm, and her will. What made her unforgettable was not beauty alone, but mastery. She spoke 9 languages. She studied philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, and politics. She turned Egypt into a diplomatic force when empires far greater trembled before Rome. And she wielded femininity not as weakness, but as strategy, an art form that reshaped the ancient world. Cleopatra's true genius, wrote one historian, was not in how she loved, but in how she ruled. Even 2,000 years later, her image remains alive, in marble statues, silver coins, ancient scrolls, and Hollywood films. Every generation rediscovers her anew, each seeing something of itself in her story: ambition, rebellion, allure, or tragedy. In a sense, Cleopatra never died. She became eternal, a force that transcends history, a name that outlived the empires that sought to bury her. The Roman Empire is dust. The pyramids are silent, but Cleopatra still speaks. She speaks through the ages. To every woman who dares to lead, every soul who refuses to bow, every dreamer who understands that power is not inherited, but created. Cleopatra was not just the end of Egypt's ancient line. She was the bridge between worlds. Greek and Egyptian, East and West, human and divine. Her life was poetry written in gold and blood. Her death a final verse that sealed her immortality. And so, when the Nile flows under the desert moon, when the sands whisper the names of kings long gone, one name rises above them all, not in lament, but in reverence. Cleopatra, the queen who refused to die. Her story ended in marble and silence, but the desert keeps its secrets. And some say Cleopatra still waits beneath the sand. For over 2,000 years, Cleopatra's final resting place has remained one of history's most haunting mysteries. Ancient texts tell us that Octavian, perhaps moved by her courage, allowed her to be buried beside Mark Antony, her eternal counterpart. Yet no one knows where that tomb lies. Alexandria, her city, was ravaged by earthquakes, swallowed by the sea, its palaces and temples buried beneath centuries of shifting sands. Archaeologists have searched for decades. Some believe her tomb lies beneath modern Alexandria, hidden under layers of stone, water, and ruin. Others think she rests far outside the city, at a place once sacred to Isis, her divine alter ego. In recent years, one woman has reignited the quest. Dr. Kathleen Martinez, a Dominican archaeologist obsessed with Cleopatra's legend. For nearly 20 years, she has scoured the ruins of Taposiris Magna, a temple dedicated to Isis about 30 miles west of Alexandria. Her belief, Cleopatra chose this site deliberately, a symbolic union of goddess and queen, life and death. Martinez and her team have uncovered astonishing clues. A hidden tunnel stretching more than 4,000 feet beneath the temple, a feat of engineering described as an underground miracle. Dozens of ancient coins bearing Cleopatra's face. Mummified remains, amulets carved with her royal insignia, and carvings that speak of death, resurrection, and the union of divine lovers. If Cleopatra wanted to be remembered as Isis, Martinez says, then she would have wanted her tomb to lie in the arms of the goddess herself. Each discovery brings archaeologists closer, yet the truth remains just beyond reach. Was the tomb destroyed by the earthquakes that shattered Alexandria? Or does it still lie hidden, perfectly preserved, waiting for the light of a new age? Satellite scans, sonar imaging, and underwater drones now search the Mediterranean seabed. Some divers claim to have seen fragments of her palace, columns, sphinxes, and statues resting silently beneath the waves. One diver described the eerie feeling of swimming through the ruins, imagining the queen's final days. You feel her there, as if she never left. The search for Cleopatra's tomb has become more than archaeology. It's a journey into myth, obsession, and identity. Each generation that searches for her is really searching for something deeper, the truth about how a mortal woman became a legend. Perhaps that's why her resting place remains hidden. Maybe history itself guards her, the Nile, the sands, the gods, unwilling to let the world disturb the queen who defied it all. To find Cleopatra, one historian mused, is to find the heartbeat of the ancient world. Even today, the desert whispers her name. Every stone turned, every chamber uncovered brings a faint echo. The faintest trace of perfume, the glimmer of gold, the hint of a crown long buried. Cleopatra, it seems, still rules, not from a throne of marble, but from the imagination of humankind. And perhaps somewhere in the deep silence beneath the temple of Isis, she rests beside Antony, her hand still entwined with his, their story unbroken, waiting for eternity to open its doors once more. The queen sleeps, but her legend does not. Some lives belong to history, others belong to eternity. Cleopatra belongs to both. 2,000 years have passed since the Nile bore witness to her brilliance. 2 millennia since Alexandria echoed with her commands. Yet Cleopatra's story refuses to fade. The last pharaoh of Egypt, the woman who outwitted Caesar, captivated Antony, and defied Rome itself, has transcended mortality. She is no longer simply a queen, She is an idea, a myth, a symbol of power, intelligence, and audacity. Artists, playwrights, and filmmakers have tried to capture her essence. From Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra, to Hollywood epics, to modern novels and documentaries, every generation rediscovers her, and with each retelling, her legend grows. Not just as a woman of beauty, but as a ruler of unparalleled intellect and courage. Cleopatra challenges every assumption about leadership, historians say. She proved that ambition, intellect, and vision know no gender. Her legacy is not only in stories, but in the world she touched. She preserved Egypt's independence for decades. She mastered diplomacy when empires threatened annihilation. She commanded armies, ruled a nation, and influenced the course of Rome itself. Her children, though tragically removed from power, carried her blood and memory into future dynasties. But Cleopatra's most enduring gift may be this: the idea that a woman can shape the world on her own terms. Her life is studied in universities, portrayed on stages, and explored in museums. Coins and statues still bear her likeness. Archaeologists continue to search for her tomb, seeking the physical proof of a queen who conquered history itself. And in every whispered legend, in every scroll and film, Cleopatra lives again. Even the sands of Egypt remember her. The Nile flows past Alexandria, through temples, past obelisks and ruins, as if carrying the story of the queen who refused to bow. Every desert wind seems to murmur her name. Every sunrise over the Ptolemaic ruins casts long shadows that hint at her presence. Cleopatra's empire may have ended, but her reign over memory, imagination, and legend is eternal. She was a queen, a lover, a strategist, a mother, a goddess, and above all, a woman who refused to yield. When we think of power, we think of armies, conquests, and wealth. But Cleopatra shows us another kind of power, the power of intellect, courage, and vision. She proves that even in a world dominated by men, one person's mind and will can bend history. And so, as the sun sets over the Nile, as the desert sands shimmer like gold, Cleopatra remains. Not in marble or coin alone, not in Rome's history books or Egypt's chronicles, but in time itself. The Pharaoh is gone. The empire has fallen, yet Cleopatra lives, eternal, untamed, unforgettable. Her story is the heartbeat of history, the inspiration of legends, and the mirror through which every era measures ambition, love, and the audacity to defy fate. She was and always will be the queen who became time itself.